Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. Now, we are charging towards 100,000 subscribers, so if you can like, subscribe, and possibly comment down below, it will help this video and this channel. There is a poll happening in the community tab for what I'll do for the 100k special, so if you're interested in that, head over to that and put your vote in and see where we go. Anyways, on to the story. A Human Supercarrier by FoxKorp. The hell do you mean we shouldn't try to subjugate humanity? By all accounts, they only have 10 supercarriers. We've got well over 100. I don't see any possibility under Tolar's twin sons of humans presenting little more than their sword and surrender if push comes to shove. Fleetmaster Brackus had to pause to catch his breath and wipe the spittle from his clenched mandibles before continuing his rant. How dare you present such defeatist nonsense before the Empress? How dare you mock our fleet's ability? How low do you think of us that we apparently couldn't even silence? With the words of the Empress hanging in the air, Brackus stopped his ramblings immediately, bowing his head in reverence as he let out one final indignant huff of anger. As you wish, Your Majesty. The Empress rose from her throne and walked towards the holographic display of the galaxy before her. In 1,000 years of exalted tenure, she oversaw the conquest of hundreds of species. Thousands of stars had risen to meet her empire's might and fallen for the same. If one of her most trusted advisors for over 100 of those 1,000 years said something was risky, it was worth hearing him out at the very least. Please continue, Scoutmaster General. Scoutmaster Ular clicked his mandibles and lowered his head with respect to the Empress before speaking. I continue to stand by the claim that the humans only have 10 supercarriers. I continue to ascertain that our 167 supercarriers are insufficient in dealing with that threat. Fleetmaster Brackus was going red in anger, but one glance from the Empress was enough to subdue his rage into nothing but a particularly forced reshifting of his mandibles. For the time being, he let Ular speak, but the Scoutmaster was unsure for just how long this could last. To elaborate on this, I'd like to go over what exactly is classified as a supercarrier. As I'm sure both of you know, a supercarrier is any vessel purpose-built to transport a complement of over 100 fighters to the battlefield. With a wave of his hand, the holographic display of the universe changed to a System Cracker-class supercarrier, the backbone of the Imperial fleet and the bane of untold numbers of species throughout the years. With its mere presence in systems, rebellions and rivals alike lay down their arms in submission. 700 meters long, meter-thick sterosteel plating, 4 antimatter fusion reactors, a complement of 150 Janus-class strike fighters, 50 Hulker bulk transports, and absolutely bristling with point defense armament, along with a dozen Class 3 railguns. It's the most feared and capable vessel in all of known space. Or at least, it was. The holographic display once more shifted, now to a ship of a blatantly alien design. Instead of the sleek, gradual curves of a proper Imperial vessel, this ship was jagged, blocky, rough around the edges. Weapon mounts were clearly visible all across its surface. Sensors, antennas, and lights erupted from the surface in great spires in a cluttered, but clearly highly functional manner. The ship wasn't pretty, but based off the massive blast doors and impressive armament, it was clear to both Empress and Fleetmaster Brackus that this was an incredibly capable craft. This is the UHG Cairo, 550 meters long, meter-thick plating of similar strength to stellar steel, if not exceeding it slightly. Our intel on the internals of the ship are hazy at best, but from what can be gathered from the civilian communications and information networks, we have managed to breach that it has several antimatter fusion reactors alongside backup battery packs for emergency running. From visual inspection alone, we estimate this vessel is capable of carrying a complement of roughly 80 to 120 space fighters of varying makes and models. By all accounts, this is a supercarrier, and its capabilities are roughly equivalent to that of the System Cracker. Military simulations show that in order for these vessels to defeat a fleet of 4 System Crackers, the humans will need to commit 5 vessels of this class. Fleet Master Brackus seemed to be in much better spirits now and began to interject. I admit that these vessels of the... what were those aliens called again? Humans, Fleet Master. Thank you. Humans are quite impressive. However, you said it yourself. They only have 10 supercarriers, while we may incur more losses than if we were fighting the average galactic ruffian. The Imperial fleet should have no problems dealing with such things. Brackus turned towards the Empress with pride, saying, I will have the invasion plans drafted and the fleet on high alert by the end of the week. The Empress took one final look at the display of the Cairo before replying, Very well. These humans admittedly seem quite industrious. They shall make a fine addition to our empire. Thank you for your concern, Scoutmaster. This intelligence has been invaluable to our decision today. If that's all, Ular clicked his mandibles loudly and let out a huff. That's not all. The Empress was shocked at the Scoutmaster's open display of disrespect. Her royal guard visibly tightened their grip on their blasters, and Fleetmaster Brackus roared in anger. Within the fraction of a second, the Fleetmaster had his saber pinned to Ular's throat. He turned to face the Empress and roared, Let me make an example of this beast! When the Empress glared into Ular's eyes to see if he'd beg for mercy, she was shocked to see no remorse, but fear. Not fear of her, or of the nearly rabid Fleetmaster Brackus, or even the saber pinned to his vital arteries, but pure, unadulterated terror stemming from the holographic display behind her. When she turned to look at whatever had caused Ular such great fear, she simply became confused. What am I looking at, Ular? The saber still firmly plastered against his throat, Ular let out a somewhat stifled reply. You are watching a video clip, the human system. Brackus, the Empress mumbled quietly, let him speak. As you wish. But Ular didn't need to speak, because the video was speaking a billion words a second. He spoke anyway to ensure no doubt of what they were seeing existed in anyone's mind. You are watching a video captured from the human home system. From what we can gather, this is humanity's home fleet. Hundreds of tiny pinpricks of light danced across the projection, but upon closer inspection, it was obvious the dots were anything but tiny. Each dot you see is a vessel of similar size to the Cairo. There are thousands of smaller ships present, but they are too small to see from this distance. Fleetmaster Brackus was too stunned to speak for what seemed like an eternity, before finally asking the inevitable. I thought you said the humans only had 10 supercarriers. There have to be... Ular cut the Fleetmaster off before he could finish. 228 to be exact, and that, even knowing that it was coming, Ular was left speechless. The star visible in the background of the scene began to dim as a vessel of truly gargantuan proportion entered into view. Eventually, the entire scene faded into nothingness as a massive vessel eclipsed the star entirely. That is the supercarrier. And they have 10 that we know of. Fleetmaster Brackus had to sit down to avoid passing out. The Empress had her claws tightly wrapped around the nearest railing to steady herself. How much do we know of these supercarriers? Scoutmaster Ular shuddered as he uttered. What we call supercarriers, the humans call light assault craft. The Grand Imperial Fleet, in its entirety, could be housed, supplied, and fielded all within a single human supercarrier strike group. The Empress turned to the Scoutmaster with a vacant stare. What are we to do? Preferably any course of action that doesn't lead us to acquiring an accurate count of supercarriers fielded by humanity. The Empress took one last look towards the projection before clicking her mandibles in agreement. Thank you, Scoutmaster. This intelligence has been invaluable to our decision today. That is all. End of story. Story number 2. Don't lie to the humans. They will believe you. Written by Vivid Membership 3959. The welcoming of the humans into the galactic community was pretty standard. The fleet of 10 battleships were, in theory, a tenth of our fleet, and were also, in theory, a relatively old fleet. In reality, the years of peace made that part of our navy the only working fleet. One of our ships broke down on the way back, but the humans didn't need to know that. After the show, the humans asked us about our ship capabilities. We told them that it was only an older fleet, and that our actual ships could move at double the pace of these. The humans had their suspicions, but because they only recently unified after making contact with the rest of the galactic community only a few of their months ago, We knew that they wouldn't be able to even match us within a reasonable time frame. In theory, at least. Time passed, and relations became more strained. The humans' moral structure was so opposed to ours that war was almost certain if it wasn't for the humans' ridiculous stockpile of crust cracker warheads. We did put effort into our stockpile, but only to be able to hold a bit more than a human government. After a group of slaves stole a ship and hid out on a human colony world, we demanded that they handed them over and were shocked to hear the response that they would be holding them in detention. Figuring the humans wouldn't be able to back up their actions, we dispatched a part of our newly refurbished fleet just in time to meet the human fleet that was a bit bigger than ours. They seemed to have built to the numbers we told them. After some back and forth between the two governments, it was eventually brought to the Galactic Union. The humans said that they had the right of claiming any personnel within their space. They were not correct due to some code that was more of a rubber mallet for larger nations to use on weaker ones. However, we were shocked when the humans provided numbers that would have been able to contend even with our theoretical fleet. After a while of silence, everyone looked at the human in the middle of the room. Then our government's delegate started to laugh and called out the humans' lies, with the rest of the galaxy delegates following suit. The humans shook their heads and walked out of the station onto their ship, where they quickly moved to their home planet. Staying in the station for a while, we heard what the rest of the people there told the humans. Most haven't interacted with the humans, and those who had just said that they had a fleet the size of ours. All the governments knew that there was no point in waging war, so we all agreed that we would just lie to our populace and claim strength. Eventually, the conversation decayed into mocking the humans' boldness of claiming superiority of their fleet. It eventually ended, and everyone returned back to their home governments to report on it. However, what I was greeted with on my return wasn't the usual government welcoming party. Instead, it was a group of panicked-looking generals. "What did the humans tell you about their fleet?" I was asked as soon as I stepped off my ship. I almost laughed before telling them what they told me, until they said something along the lines of, That means I only sent part of the fleet to that planet then." What do you mean by that?" I asked. The humans have stationed a fleet of 100 ships, around 4 of their closest to our space. Altogether, they have the ability to outnumber our naval forces 3-2, assuming that they did send their entire fleet to our border. However, there are reports of another 80 on their other borders, along with 20 around Earth. They built a navy able to beat the one we don't have. Humans will believe anything. It has been 80 of their years since then, and we have almost bankrupted ourselves, making the fleet that we said that we had in order to stand a chance in any sort of battle. End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Dragon Soup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnold, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Light Jock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Azrakal. Thank you very much.